Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're so excited about the webinar today and having Kim Saeed join us and help you to understand how and why to maintain no contact with a narcissist and start the healing process. Kim is actually not only an expert who's helped so many people, but she has her own experience in this area as well. And I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about some of the things that she has experienced. So, Kim, why don't you let us know? Tell us a little bit about your own personal experience, and tell us about what it feels like to be a survivor of narcissistic abuse.
Well, thank you, Kim, for having me here today for this webinar. It feels great. There was a time in my own journey where I never thought I would heal from this trauma and this abuse. I thought I'd be stuck in this never-ending cycle of depression and panic and just learned helplessness. But I'm here today to tell everyone that healing is absolutely possible. I am a survivor of narcissistic abuse. I was with my ex-husband for over 8 years. And back then, I didn't really know anything about narcissism or going no contact. Intuitively, I had tried blocking his communications, blocking him from being able to call. And then, as we all do when we're going through this cycle, I would unblock the phone and then just ignore him when he would call. It was only after I went through another year or two of this cycle that I realized I have got to stop communicating with this man. And aside from that, I started just researching, why he acted the way he did. The furthest I got back then was a book called something to do with verbal abuse, the verbally abusive relationship, and but nothing about narcissism. And it was only after I went to 6 different therapists who failed to recognize what I was going through that I decided to take my healing into my own hands. And that's when I went on this stumbling path of healing from narcissistic abuse. I did eventually learn what I had experienced. I learned that my ex is, in fact, a narcissistic individual. Now, he was never diagnosed. We did try couples therapy at one point, and it failed. And I've since learned that going to therapy with a narcissist is pretty much futile.
Why, well, I don't want to ask too many questions now, but I can kind of get that, when you, because they can play the game, right? That's part of what they can do is they can show up differently in front of people as they want to. Is that right?
Absolutely. And that's exactly what happened. I left the session just feeling completely defeated, feeling like an idiot because, the therapist, this is the first time he saw my ex, and so he's not thinking this guy's here, trying to play games or present himself as someone completely different from who he is. And as many people who go through this experience, I was further traumatized because I felt like part of the problems in the relationship were my fault. And I've since learned just through hours of research and, my own experiences and now working with coaching clients that going to therapy is completely pointless. And for those of you who have been following me a while, you know that I do share a son with my ex. A common question I get from people is, how do you go no contact when you share a son or you share custody? And I'm going to address that in the webinar today. And I also want people to understand that I know what it's like going through this cycle of trauma and feeling like there's something more you can do to try to salvage the relationship. I once agreed to go to another country and be my ex's second wife. And when he first suggested that, I was thinking, well, of course it's not ideal, but I just want to be able to be around him. So I agreed to it. And at first, I didn't realize how serious he was about this. He had, in fact, gone to another country and gotten married. I mean, he had only been away from my son and I for about a month. That was his reaction to my asking for a separation, was to quit his job and fly off to his country. And he got married in a month's time. And so I agreed to go there and be a second wife. I left my 2 older sons here in the U.S. And once I got there, it was just horrific. He started out just talking to her on the phone, and then he began going out and staying out all night, seeing her. And that's, when I brought it up to him that I just don't think I can do this. It's too painful. And his, response was, well, you're lucky just to have a piece of me, just even a small piece of me. You should be happy with that.
Wow.
And that just hit me right between the eyes. In that moment, that was my shift. I realized, what the heck am I doing here, first of all?
Yes.
Since then, I made the decision to go no contact, and I have not looked back. And so I want to share with everyone that if I can heal from narcissistic abuse, so can you. And it's not something that, I'm not special. I don't have any superpowers. People heal from this every day. And that's what we're going to be talking about today in the webinar.
Thanks for sharing that, Kim. We really appreciate it. So I know you're going to talk about next what all that everyone will discover on the webinar and what's possible for them. And we're really grateful to have you on today and have you share your knowledge and your information. So I'm going to let you take over, and I'll be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so on this webinar, you'll discover why you need to go no contact with a toxic partner. Some people believe they can somehow manage their partner's dysfunctional behaviors. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why that's just not true. I'm going to talk about how to avoid breaking no contact. Just having done this as long as I have, people sometimes have a wrong idea about what no contact really is. I'll go over emotional healing after narcissistic abuse, how to cut the energy ties with the narcissist, how to break your toxic love addiction, how to feel better about yourself. And I'm also going to talk about the dangers of staying in an abusive relationship. And we'll be covering some other material as well. All right, so who am I? Well, I'm Kim Saeed, and I'm the founder of the website Let Me Reach. It has been around since about 2013. I'm also the founder of the New Life Academy, which I created last year. And that's where my online courses are housed. I'm an expert on narcissistic abuse, not only having gone through the experience myself, not only with one, but with 2 narcissistic individuals, which I'll cover a little bit later on. I'm also an author, coach, and teacher. I do have a couple of ebooks out on Amazon. I've been coaching for the past maybe 2.5 years now. And I do have a background as a teacher. I'm a licensed teacher. I did leave that career to pursue what I'm doing now. I am the mother of 3 sons, ages 8, 16, and 19. I love organic gardening. This is my 3rd year of doing that, and I'm hoping one day to create a homestead with chickens and goats and ducks and all that fun stuff, but not for their meat. I'm a pescatarian, so I don't, the only meat I eat is seafood. And I love to travel, which I've done a lot of since I left my ex. I've been several places, including Hawaii, Ecuador, and Nicaragua. So let me ask you a question. Are you in a relationship with a narcissist, or are you being strung along, being triangulated, going through numerous breakup and makeup cycles, or, the friends with benefits, where the narcissist says, although they've started a new life with someone else, they still care about you and they don't want to lose you completely. So you're kind of there as a friends with benefits. They only come around when they want to get some action, or maybe they want to complain a little bit about their new partner. So that's what you're there for. If you are still in a relationship with a person like that, are you being emotionally, verbally, or physically abused? Are you still stuck? Have you tried to go no contact numerous times and just can't seem to make it stick? Or if you have recently gone no contact, are you having trouble maintaining it or just simply trying to recover from it? And if so, if you answered yes to any of those questions, would you like to learn how to deal with it and finally how to move on with your life? So I want you to imagine for a moment if you could dramatically increase your chances of implementing and maintaining no contact. I can't tell you how many times I broke up with my ex, and in fact, it had gotten so bad, it was to the point where he was packing his suitcases and leaving our home at least every week or two. Would you like to have a better understanding of why you feel an unbearable urge to go back to a person you know is completely bad for you? Connect with the real reasons why you break no contact and then begin healing them. And then finally join the people who you keep reading about on the internet who have actually gotten through this experience and have started healing and have started enjoying their lives the way they were meant to. And things can be much better when you know how to break this cycle of self-defeating beliefs and reach for a better life. And I gotta say, part of the reason we stay in these relationships, whether we're aware of it on a cognitive level or not, we are doing that because ultimately we have some self-esteem issues, and sometimes people even believe they deserve this kind of life, that they're paying for their sins, or this is just their lot in life, and that's simply not true. So today I want to talk about reasons why you should go no contact. The first one is self-protection. Many people, when they think about the concept of going no contact and cutting someone out of their life, it does put them into a state of panic. Part of the reason for that is when we have been in a relationship like this, there is a toxic love addiction that forms. We read all the time about victim peptides, and we read, I've written about this myself, about the neurochemicals that are secreted in our, by our brains or amygdalas, and it does develop an addiction. So that's part of why people feel panicky. In contrast to a regular addiction to substances or to alcohol, there's an emotional level here that makes it much more difficult to heal from or to withdraw from than a regular addiction. So when you think about going no contact, it's not as a way of punishing the person or making them pay or trying to, maybe if they finally see what's going on, they'll, stop acting this way. No. It literally is a matter of self-protection. So you want to think of it like, I'm doing this to save my life. I'm doing this to save my kids' well-being. I'm doing this literally as a matter of survival. Healing. There's really very little chance that you can heal from this kind of abuse as long as you continue a relationship with a toxic or narcissistic individual. This does make it a little bit more difficult for people who do share custody of children with these kinds of individuals, but it's possible, and I'll talk about that too. Finally, moving forward into a life that's free of abuse and full of peace and joy. We were not put here to suffer. We're put here to, we are here to learn lessons. And this really is a big life lesson for all of us that have gone through this kind of relationship. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little while. As long as you're with a manipulative, abusive individual, you're never going to have that life that's free of abuse. You're never going to have that life where you can just go into your kitchen in the morning and have a cup of coffee and just feel peace and contentment. Important to keep in mind that the only person who gains from us as targets of abuse, breaking no contact, is the narcissist. When they come back to us, hoovering, it's called, they're not doing it because they still care. They're not doing it because they miss us. They're doing it because, first of all, it's a matter of power. It's a power struggle. They want to make sure, first of all, that they still have that power over you. And secondly, they're deathly afraid that you might meet someone else. And they really don't want that to happen, because then their chances of exploiting you are going to be slim to none. Recovery and happiness. As long as you're with that person who's trying to break you down, recovery and happiness are not possible. Go no contact to avoid trauma and addiction. It's been scientifically proven that these kinds of abusive relationships do result in PTSD, or post-traumatic stress syndrome, complex PTSD, which is very similar. The only, I guess, main difference is that it's a feeling of helplessness, like you're in this situation that you have no control over, and so you just give up. You just think, oh, this is just the life I've been given. That's not true either. You want to go no contact to avoid depression. Learned helplessness does result in very severe depression. This is part of the reason why people just can't get out of bed. They can barely function. They're not there for their children who need them. I remember back when I was still in the relationship, I could barely just get up off the couch to feed my children. And I would clothe them and feed them, and I might spend a little bit of time with them, but I was not there for them. I was just so consumed with my own trauma and my own chaos that they took a back seat. And I do want to add that going no contact is essential, because some people do become so depressed that they end their own lives. And in very rare cases, they will commit murder. So I want to talk a little bit about how to avoid breaking no contact once you've tried to implement it. One way to get your frustrations out is to write a letter to the narcissist, but don't send it. I had to learn this the hard way. I remember sending those email tsunamis. The ones where you want to sit down and write a come to Jesus meeting to the narcissist to tell them how bad they are and what a horrible human they are and how much they've hurt you. And before you know it, hours of your day have gone by and you've sent 15 emails, and that's just crazy. The better choice is to write the letter, but don't send it. That way you're able to process your frustrations in a way that maintains your dignity. Okay, and a lot of people try to do this alone. Going no contact, you're going to need someone, whether it's a coach, a friend, or a mentor, a therapist, to help you. The reason for that is targets of narcissistic abuse typically have an insecure or anxious attachment style. They feel the need to attach to someone. So, obviously in the abusive relationship, you're attaching to the narcissist. That's your primary attachment figure. And once you decide to go no contact, then you're going to need someone else there to fill in, basically, to be there for you so you can feel emotionally safe as you go through this process. That's one mistake people make, is trying to do it all by themselves. It can be done. I did it alone, but it took me way, way longer. I've since learned that that's really not the way to go. You need someone there on your side. One other way to avoid breaking no contact is to read less about narcissism and more about recovery. And yeah, I know I write about narcissism a lot. I've got a lot of older articles out there that I wrote when I first started this mission, but I've since learned reading about narcissistic personality disorder really keeps you stuck in the abuse and in the trauma. On a subconscious level, it's really the worst thing you can do for your recovery once you've decided, all right, I'm tired of this. I need to heal from this. And it's okay to go on and maybe check out a video for 15 minutes or to read an article. When you find yourself doing that for hours a day, or from the time you get home from work until bedtime, that's dysfunctional. So what I typically tell clients is, okay, so let's start taking baby steps here. Instead of reading about narcissism or watching YouTube videos until you go to bed, read one article or watch one video and then figure out ways, okay, well, I know this person's a narcissist and I know I need to heal, so what do? Well, you start reading about recovery. A really great way to get through this is to journal. Journal your successes, your thoughts, your dreams, visualize. What do you want your life to be like in 6 months? Facts about no contact. Recovery from narcissistic abuse begins with no contact. A lot of people think going no contact simply means not answering the phone if the person calls or not answering an email. That's just no response, and it's going to keep you stuck. When you decide to go no contact, then that's when you need to go ahead and block. No response is only going to, keep you stuck. Like I said, I've worked with people who tried no response for several months. They were successful, and then suddenly they're having a bad day, and just out of the blue, the narcissist tries to call or get in contact with them, and before you know it, they're right back in the cycle. Let's talk about, okay, so what if I share custody? I can't go no contact. All right, so it depends. If you have full sole physical custody of your children, then legally you don't have to get in touch with your ex. And again, unless there's something in the court order that dictates that. Now, for shared custody, you're going to want to do extreme modified contact. That's just a method I came up with myself because, a lot of times, in no judgment here, because I did this too, a lot of times we feel like, okay, I need to be, civil for the sake of the children, and we start getting all these weird ideas about what it means to be civil. And a lot of those ideas, unfortunately, keep us stuck in the abuse cycle. What I've learned is, in my own case, I had one way that my ex could contact me to get in touch about my son, and that was a landline phone. There was a point in time he could not contact me by email or cell phone for very good reasons. If that abusive person can get in touch with you by your cell phone, then what can you expect? Just out of the blue, text messages, emails, phone calls out of nowhere that catch you off guard. Who needs that? That's going to keep you stuck in abuse. And they know that, and they use it as a way to abuse and manipulate you. So you want to make sure that you have an alternate way for them to contact you about your kids. Our Family Wizard is a great tool to use. And that is a supervised email system, especially for those who are trying to co-parent with a high conflict or narcissistic individual. Another thing is I never let my ex in my new apartment. Never, not once did he step inside. We often have these ideas that, the kids need to be around their other parent. Not really. That's what shared custody is for. They're already spending time with their other parent on their times for visitation. So you really want to consider not letting that person back into your house. That's supposed to be your haven and an area and a space for you to heal. Recovery times do vary. Like I said, it took me years to finally get the hang of this, but that's because I didn't know about narcissism and no contact. I didn't know about all these transformational healing modalities. But now that we have the resources that we have, there's no reason it has to take years. Working on healing does speed the recovery process. And if that's, if there's one thing I could say, you're going to have to work on this every day in the beginning, especially for the first 90 days, the first, 3 months to 6 months, you're going to have to work on healing activities every single day. One way you can start the healing process is by cutting energy ties with the narcissist. For example, get rid of anything that they gave you or that belonged to them. A common obstacle I see on the forums and chat rooms is, well, I can't really get rid of them. I can't go into contact yet because they left all their stuff here. That's really a form of self-sabotage. There's absolutely no reason you have to let their stuff stay there. And what I often suggest, get a storage unit. Pay for the first month, put all their stuff in there, and then tell them, here's your stuff. This is where you can get it. I paid for the first month. After that, you're on your own. Pack it up and have it delivered to their front porch. Pack it up and leave it out, on the sidewalk for them to come and get it. There's really no reason you have to let their stuff remain in your home. You can smudge your home. Smudging was used by the Native Americans to clear out negative energies. I still smudge to this day just to get rid of any stagnant negative energies that come into my home. You can use essential oils. They are great for helping you release emotional trauma. And there are cord cutting exercises out there. Even if you don't believe in all this energy tie stuff or metaphysical concepts, just doing it as a visualization exercise can really help. Guided meditations. I cannot tell you how much this made a difference in my own journey of healing. I didn't really think they were going to do anything, but I kept hearing about and reading about how beneficial they are, and they really are. I did them every day for the first 60 days after I went extreme modified contact. They really made a huge difference. And the reason for that is because when we hear something over and over, it helps to overwrite any negative narratives that we have in our minds. It helps to erase all the verbal abuse. And it's really just the basic theory of education that says when we hear something maybe 200 or 300 times, it becomes a part of our permanent memory, a part of our permanent belief system. A lot of people get relief from tapping, emotional freedom technique, which is tapping. You can find all kinds of materials on that. Reiki massage is another great way to work out emotional stress and emotional trauma. I've talked a little bit about, how to go no contact, how to avoid breaking it, ways to start healing from it. So I want to talk a little bit more about healing and recovery. So let's say that you've gone no contact and now you're kind of there by yourself and you start feeling panicky. What are you going to do? What are you going to do to avoid breaking no contact? Well, you want to start learning grounding techniques and self-soothing methods. You can't react. Well, let me take that back. That reaction you have, there's really not much you can do about it in the beginning. It's going to be there. It's the basic fight or flight. You might have a traumatic trigger. You might come across something they have in your house and you forgot it was there, and then suddenly you're in this panic state. So that's why learning grounding techniques and self-soothing methods are so important. It could be anything like getting up and going out for a walk in nature, petting your cat, having a stress ball. Deep breathing exercises are very good. But anything that helps you avoid breaking no contact. Allow yourself to grieve and be angry. One of the most common questions I get is, how long is it going to take to heal from this? What can I do to feel better and fast? Unfortunately, there is no magic bullet that's going to take the pain away. And really, you don't want that, because the longer we suppress our emotions, the longer it's going to take to heal. They can come up later in very inconvenient ways. You could have nervous breakdowns. You could develop an anger management issue. So you need to allow yourself to grieve and to be angry about it. If you need to, go see a counselor. But you definitely want to go ahead and allow yourself to feel those feelings instead of, oh, what can I do to make them go away? And again, if this is something that is causing you to be dysfunctional in your day-to-day life, then you definitely need to seek professional help. Clinical depression does happen. People develop symptoms that can cause them to appear bipolar. So if any of that stuff starts happening, or maybe you get really snappy with your kids, then it's time for you to go seek therapy. And make sure that you've implemented no contact in its true form. Don't cyber snoop on your ex. Don't check them out on Facebook. Don't go on Instagram. It's all just a way of re-traumatizing yourself. It's also indicative of love addiction. Because the person's not in your life anymore, you want to keep sort of feeling alive, fantasy of, okay, well, maybe they'll finally get it. They'll come back to me and realize how awful they were. It's really that fantasy, hanging on to that fantasy, that causes us to look them up and see if they're with someone new. And guess what? Most of the time, they're going to be with someone new. Make sure you've blocked them. If need be, you're going to change your cell phone number. I've done that, even though I use my cell phone for work. I got rid of an email account that I had for over 15 years. I deactivated my Facebook account for several months. So these are things that you're going to need to be willing to do if you're really serious about going no contact. And again, stop researching narcissism 24/7. Now, if you're just learning that your partner might be a narcissist, I wouldn't be as strict on this because, it's just a natural thing. We want to analyze, we want to understand. After about 3 to 6 months, there's really nothing more new that you can learn. After 3 to 6 months, you're reading and listening to things you already know. You're not going to learn anything new. It's going to keep you stuck in the trauma. So at that point, it's time to move on and work on your self-esteem. So in place of researching narcissism and rereading stuff you already know, then look inwards. Why am I doing all this? It's not even making any difference in my life. What will make a difference in my life? Well, let's work on your self-esteem. Talk about some more thoughts on healing, some ways that you can start healing from the emotional trauma. Another great method is yoga. More thoughts on healing. You might not feel an immediate release, and that's okay. The first month that I did guided meditations, I didn't feel any different, but I kept doing them. It's in the consistency that you're going to start noticing results. And it's important to keep in mind that if you get sick, extremely tired, or depressed, this can mean that the old emotions are releasing, the emotional trauma is releasing. That does work the body very, very much. So it's important to keep in mind that you're going to experience these feelings. If it does persist, like maybe feeling that way over a week or 2 weeks, then you probably want to go see your doctor. If you feel disconnected or spaced out, that's another sign of emotional release. One thing you can do is try a salt bath. They've been known to kind of draw toxins out of the body. Aromatherapy is a great way to release emotional trauma. One reason for this is because our sense of smell is the only way to address the amygdala, which is where all of our feelings of trauma come from, and those fears of abandonment and things like that. And, obviously our sense of smell is one way to do this, to release emotional trauma. And essential oils do let us access buried emotions and memories and help us relieve negative emotions. Guided meditation, one of my favorites. Our subconscious accepts traumatic events as truth. So what does that really mean? Okay, so let's say you decided to give your partner yet another chance and they promised they wouldn't cheat. And then you're out on the weekend getting your morning coffee or your Starbucks or whatever, and then suddenly you see them out with another person. So that's going to, first of all, be a traumatic event that could enhance your PTSD. You've been betrayed again when you were expecting something completely different. But then your subconscious mind is going to start creating stories around that event, stories such as, oh, that other person must be more attractive, or they're more interesting, or they have a better job than me, or they're better in bed than me. You're going to start creating all these stories in your mind and believing them as truth. Guided meditations can lessen or eliminate these feelings of low self-worth. I still do guided meditations to this day. The biggest thing about guided meditations is that they can retrain the brain. That's one of the reasons why I am so adamant about, once you start your healing journey, you want to stop researching narcissism. It just enhances and deepens those neural pathways, which strengthens all your negative beliefs and low self-worth. Guided meditations can retrain the brain to start thinking more empowering thoughts. They work especially well at bedtime, which is when I do mine most of the time, because even if you fall asleep, your subconscious mind is still going to absorb the affirmations and the messages. You can also try binaural beats. There's a channel out there on YouTube called Vortex Success that I listened to a lot when I first started my healing journey. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about smaller actions you can do that make a big difference. And sometimes, even if you do something very small like this, maybe you're having a really busy day, these are small things you can do that will help you in your journey. Write affirmations on index cards and post them where you will see them. So you want to be very specific about what you write on these cards. I'm so glad that I'm on my healing journey. I'm so happy with my new life. So you don't want to write down things like, I can't wait until, my ex gets his karma or her karma. You want to write down positive affirmations about your life and the way you want things to be. Buy and use adult coloring books. And I say that because, often as a former target of abuse, I can relate to this. I would go out and buy all these healing things, and then they sit there and collect dust. So you want to make sure that you work on this every day. Coloring is a great way to relieve stress, even for adults, because what it does, it allows your inner child to express his or herself. Adopt a pet. I talk about this in my private group for my boot camp, my no contact boot camp. Adopt a pet, because one thing that we struggle with when we come out of these relationships is we have all this love to give. And who are we going to give it to? Well, it doesn't have to be another human being. It could be a pet, a cat, a dog, a hamster, whatever. But it's a great way to direct your affections and your love. Take yourself to the movies. I am an introvert, so really don't like going out in public a whole lot. But during my healing journey, I did take myself to movies. I took myself to dinners. I, would go to the bookstore. All these things I would do by myself. Basically, I was treating myself the way I would a good friend. Just make sure if you do go to the movies, you avoid ones with a lot of loud sounds, like with car wrecks and things like that, or anything that depicts human suffering. Take up a creative hobby. Music, art, dance, all of those things are great forms of self-expression. which is important because we weren't allowed to do that inside of the abusive relationship. Another thing you could do is check out meetup groups in your area. Do some mirror work. This really brought up a lot of emotion for me when I first started doing it. And what do I mean by mirror work? It's going to a mirror, maybe your bathroom, in your bedroom, and looking at yourself and just saying, I love you. You deserve a better life. Kim, I am so proud of you. And just affirming your right to be happy and affirming that you are good enough. Spend some time in nature. I'm so lucky to be living on this beautiful mountaintop that I'm on right now, just surrounded by nature. Nature in and of itself is very healing. Get outside, get on your front porch if you don't want to or can't travel, and just listen to the birds, listen to the breezes, if it's a windy day, or just sit and enjoy the beauty of the spring and rest when you need to. Emotional abuse really taxes the body, the physical body. Mental stress also taxes the body. It's so important to get rest when you need to, because if you're not getting enough sleep, then your mental and physical symptoms are only going to get worse. You could react in ways that are really irrational, all because you're not getting enough rest or enough sleep. I've talked about ways to go no contact, ways to avoid breaking no contact, ways to heal. So what I'd like to talk about now, let's say you've been doing this for 3 to 6 months, and that I just throw that out there. Healing is different for everyone. It depends on your lifestyle. It depends on whether you are doing healing activities and self-care activities on a daily basis. If you're not, you can expect that you're not going to heal. Time does not heal. It's what we do with that time that heals us. But if you have been, doing these things I've suggested, I want to talk about signs that you've arrived as a survivor. The most important thing, in my opinion, is that you appreciate that self-care is something you need to do consistently. Self-care is even important for people who haven't gone through emotional abuse. So for anyone that has been through an experience like that, you've got to be gentle with yourself. Try to stop being a perfectionist. Try to stop being a superwoman or a warrior. You've only got so much energy to put out into the world every day. And part of that energy needs to be reserved for you and just you, no one else. You do what it takes to protect your mental and physical space. One example of this is, I hear people all the time, I've told this person I don't want them in my life anymore. Why do they keep coming around? Why do they keep harassing me? Sometimes it is necessary to get a restraining order. I had to. I didn't want to, but I had to, and I just looked at it as a matter of survival. You no longer care about what your ex will or how they'll react to your decisions. What do I mean by that? Well, I'll just use my ex as an example. He did not like me to dress up. He didn't like me to wear makeup. He certainly didn't like me going out with friends. And so even after I broke up with him, I'd been conditioned for so long to try to dress in a way that I wouldn't attract attention to myself, to just be kind of plain. Not to go out because, oh my gosh, that's considered going out. You're trying to show off. You're trying to attract attention to yourself. I stopped caring about what he would think. This is my life, and I'm going to do what I want with my life, regardless of what he thinks. And I did get to a point where I just stopped caring. And, this is another tough one. You may notice when you start to heal that some of your other relationships have been an energy and a time drain. You might notice that friend you've been with for many, many years, oh my gosh, I've just realized that They only call when they need something, or they only call when they want to complain. But oh, you know what? If I need a shoulder to lean on, where are they? Nothing but crickets, right? So you might have to shed some other relationships as you start to grow and heal and evolve. Signs you've arrived as a survivor. You're more concerned about what you're doing with your life than what your ex is doing with theirs. There's no more snooping around on Facebook or Instagram. There's no more, casually showing up at their favorite coffee shop. You're more concerned with what you're going to do this weekend to have some fun. You're more concerned about your kids. What can you do to make sure they're feeling emotionally safe? You're more concerned about, what are we going to do for Christmas, in December? And you really don't care what your ex is doing anymore. You no longer focus on problems, but on solutions. One thing I hear over and over from people is, I'm so broke, I can't do anything. And I just want to address that today because it really is a big problem. On an energetic level, when you affirm over and over that you're broke, that's all you talk about is you're so broke. Guess what? The universe is going to keep giving that back to you. It's like a prayer. The universe, God, there's no deciding whether what you're saying is good or bad. It is what you think about the most, and when you speak with your mouth is what you're going to get back. So you need to stop affirming that you're broke for that reason. But also, some of you already know this because I've shared this in a blog post. I've shared it in my newsletters. I know what that's like, by the way, to be very broke. There was a point where I lost one of my teaching jobs right before the end of the school year, and it was, my ex was involved in that. I had just moved into a new apartment. What the heck was I going to do? I mean, I sold everything I had of value. I was doing odd jobs on Craigslist, like resumes and things like that. I was selling my own plasma. And sometimes even after that, I still didn't have enough for even a cup of coffee. I know what it's like to be, in that situation. But instead of staying there, instead of popping a tent in that state, what are you going to do to make it work? What are you going to do? Everyone has a talent they can use. Go clean house, drive for Uber. I mean, there are things you can do. You just have to be creative. You got to sit and think about, instead of, oh my God, I'm broke, I can't do anything. Well, what can I do? Just start brainstorming. You no longer consider what happened to you as a punishment, but an eye-opener. That's where I am right now, folks. I am very glad this happened to me. I never knew when this happened, to me years ago. When I came out, I never thought I'd be where I am today. I did decide that I wanted to do something different with my life. How it was going to unfold, I had no idea. I just took the first step. And now, because of the healing work I've done and the growing and the evolving that I've been through, I do see it as a gift. And when I mentioned earlier in this webinar that this is all happening to us for a reason, as a lesson, it's so we can get rid of the dysfunctional beliefs that that have been handed down to us throughout the generations. As an example, our parents and grandparents had these limiting beliefs about how we were supposed to live our lives. Let's tough it out. Let's stay together for the kids' sake. That's not really true anymore. It's not applicable. And, if you're a religious person, God does not approve of enabling abuse. And each case is different. I can't sit here and say because your husband shouted at you or cursed at you that he's a narcissist and you should leave. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying if abuse is a regular part of your life, then there's nothing saying that you have to stay there. This is happening to you so you can overcome and rise above this abuse that you have been through with this person or people. Sometimes it's not just a romantic partner, it can be a family member, it can be a friend. This is happening so you can rise above, heal the things that need to be healed inside of you, so you can start developing healthy boundaries and live the life that you deserve. So I've just explained why going no contact is critical to your future and your recovery. I've explained a few simple things you can do to help with your recovery process. Let me tell you about something else that can really help you. Just imagine rising above the confusion, no more walking on eggshells or never knowing from day to day what it's going to be like, because you never know when your abusive partner is going to lash out. Discovering new beliefs, new opportunities, new ways of living you thought were beyond you. Guess what? When you make the choice to leave abuse behind, to leave those negative beliefs behind, things just start unfolding for you. God and the universe want you to be happy. And when you step into alignment with what you're supposed to be doing with your life, opportunities do just arise out of nowhere. Imagine beginning the next thrilling chapter of your life. Yeah, going no contact is scary and it's very difficult. I'm not going to lie. But if you're doing it right, if you go no contact and you start healing, you begin to realize this whole other life out there waiting for you. And oh my gosh, you can really do anything you put your mind to. Just imagine not having to live in fear anymore. Imagine giving yourself permission to be you. One of the sad things that happens, we may or may not be aware of this. When we stay with an abusive partner, and yeah, there's trauma bonding and there's addiction and all that. So I understand how difficult it is. I've been there. But what happens is we abandon ourselves along with the narcissist, along with the abuser. And that's why it feels so crappy. And we may not even be aware of that we're doing that, but we are. We're abandoning and rejecting ourselves. So just imagine having permission you give yourself to be you. Imagine appreciating the good in your life instead of focusing on all the negativity. If you have children, for example, children are a blessing. When I was going through it, my kids didn't deserve what was happening. They didn't deserve a mom who was like a zombie who only came out of a dark bedroom to feed and clothe them. Guess what happens when this goes on over a long period of time? Children who grow up with a narcissistic parent in their family unit generally, will grow up to either be codependent or narcissistic themselves. Just imagine being a better parent and offering your children your true presence. I am so glad that I left, because my relationship with my kids is so much better now. We actually enjoy being around each other. We laugh together. Our holidays are so much better because I don't have to sit there and worry about someone just completely ruining it and sabotaging it. Imagine having energy that leads you to a life full of richness and gratitude and accomplishment. Again, using myself as an example, this is my calling. I never imagined that my experience would lead me to help other people overcome this. I never imagined that I would be leading people out of the darkness and into the light. And I'm not the only one. There are other people like me doing the same thing. But imagine, maybe you don't want to do something like I'm doing, but maybe you want to paint, or maybe you want to, start a hobby or do that thing that you've always dreamed of doing. You don't have to worry about someone ridiculing you and mocking you for it. Imagine creating your deal breakers and personal boundaries and finally sticking to them. If you've been on my website, you've seen that I have, a little free download for your, creating your deal breakers and personal boundaries. That is how you're going to avoid another narcissist in your life. You don't have to be on the lookout. You don't have to put up walls. You don't have to do any of that. Because guess what? It's not that we attract narcissistic people or negative people. What happens is we accept them. And as long as you know you have the power to not accept that anymore, you have nothing to worry about. So what do I mean by that? All right, so you sit down and you write down your deal breakers, you write down your personal boundaries, and you stick to them. So let's say you go out on a date with a new person. They are 30 minutes late getting there. Their phone is being blown up with text messages. They run off to the bathroom. They come back. You guys start talking, and they're talking about, oh, you're really attractive, but I think you'd look awesome with blonde hair. I think you'd look great with red hair. And, your clothes are nice, but I think you'd look good in this. Guess what? Sorry. Have a good life, and thanks for the dinner. And that's it. You walk away, and you mean it. And being able to honor yourself enough so that if red flags do pop up, you can walk away and mean it. So let's say you're in a new relationship and the new person lies. You find out they lied to you. You find out, I don't know, they're watching porn and you don't like that. You walk away. You don't try to push it aside or brush it under the rug. It's all about compatibility. If this person is engaging in things that bother you, they're not your compatible partner. And you need to be willing to walk away. And just imagine restoring your shattered identity and sense of self and becoming a better version of you. I would imagine that before you met the narcissist, you were successful, maybe in your career, maybe you owned your own business, maybe you were a painter or a musician. A lot of times when we get into these relationships, our lives fall apart. We let go of everything that means anything to us. But imagine picking those things back up or even starting something new. All right, so I've talked about all this great stuff about going no contact and healing and what your life can be like. Here is what we've put together for you. As I mentioned in the beginning of the webinar, I'm the founder of the New Life Academy, and my flagship course is the Essential No Contact Bootcamp. And here's what we cover in the bootcamp: how to effectively maintain the no contact block or extreme modified contact. There is a special section in there just for people who share custody with a high conflict or narcissistic person, so you can move forward into healing. How to stop analyzing your bad relationship for your empathic, compassionate mindset. You can't do that when you're dealing with a narcissist. You can't sit there and think, well, this is how I would handle it, and I can't believe they're not handling it the same way. You got to stop projecting your good qualities onto them. We cover how to finally grasp how narcissists and other manipulators think and help you determine if you are engaging in self-sabotaging behaviors and thoughts so you can stop them in their track. How to overcome self-defeating beliefs and finally live true to your worth. We're not only talking about how to go no contact in this course, we're talking about getting ready for it, psyching yourself up for it, coming to acceptance, doing no contact, and then how to maintain it and start healing. Why it's important to have a secure base while going through the physiological and psychological withdrawal and trauma associated with narcissistic abuse. I talked about that a little while ago. You need someone there on your side. How to stop betraying yourself and acting out of alignment with your own integrity. This is a step-by-step course, and also you'll have access to a community where you can get the support you need. There is a private Facebook group included in this course, and it has active members in there who are very welcoming and supportive. I'll teach you my highly effective healing and new life strategies so you can stop spinning on that hamster wheel and start living the life you're meant to live. And if you think about it, how much would it be worth to you to get this part of your life taken care of and master maintaining no contact? I mean, if you were to take the coaching or the therapy route, it would easily cost you several $1,000s to cover all this ground. The stuff that's included in this course is basically the stuff that I go over with my coaching clients who buy a $1,000 package. Even one coaching session alone with me is $125. So when you think about doing that, or if you go to a therapist, I mean, I've talked to people who've spent tens of thousands of dollars on therapy. When you think about that, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at just how affordable my course is. You know, we're not charging you $1,000 or even $500 or even $300, though I could easily charge that for what's included in the course. If you take action today, you can enroll in the Essential No Contact Boot Camp for only $67. And that is a savings off of the enrollment fee. It's usually $97. But today you can enroll for only $67. Imagine taking control of your life, getting on that healing path, being there for your children, being happy when you get around your friends and family instead of obsessing about an abusive person for $67. I mean, you probably spend more on that just going to Starbucks. So to get started, you can go to this URL, letmereach.com/webinar special. Immediately after you enroll, you'll get the lifetime access to the course and the bonuses. There are some really cool bonuses in there. You'll be ahead of the game when we add new content. I'm always looking for ways to improve the boot camp. So anything new that's added, you won't pay an extra penny for. And the price of this course will go up in the future as we tweak it and make additions. You'll also get a free trial to our group coaching program that's going to be available in a couple of months. So really $67 when you think about what you're getting in return for that is extremely affordable. So again, that URL is letmereach.com/webinar special. And I think that's all I have today. Kim, did you have anything you'd like to add or to ask before we wrap up?
Yeah, Kim, this has been wonderful. It's you're brilliant at this. Thank you so much for all the information.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can't imagine people that are out there struggling with this. They've got to understand that it's a lifeline you're throwing out to them. And I'm really glad that we've got this. We did this webinar today, and we can make it available to people because there's so many that are searching for these answers that you've already lived through and experienced, and you've found the right way to make it work. And they don't have to struggle as hard as you did because you've already found some of the answers, right?
Right. I've already walked that path. I know, what mistakes and challenges to look out for. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, I'm really excited about this. And, again, it's letmereach.com/webinar special. And they can sign up right away and get started. So thanks again, Kim. We appreciate you being on.
Well, thank you for having me. Hope you have a great day.
Thank you. You as well.
Okay.